Count 1, culpable homicide. The sentence imposed is a maximum imprisonment of 5 years.
Just when we thought it was all over, came the news that the prosecution planned to appeal the Oscar Pistorius conviction and sentence. They aren't the only ones who believe justice wasn't served.
I'm worried about the other disabled inmates who are left in. I know the torture they suffered. I would love to see Oscar, not because he's rich, but because of his disability. Maybe for him it's gonna be better.
This is Checkpoint, and I'm Ngepile Mabuse. It's been 18 months in which books have been written, CSI series dreamt up, and reputations made and lost. Later in the show, we'll look at several reputations that took a battering. But first, a reputation made, that of eNCA journalist Karen Morn, who was given more access than most to the inner circle of the Pistorius clan.
Mr. Pistorius, please rise.
It is the day that many people watching the Oscar trial have been waiting for.
Today, Judge Thokozile Masipa will decide what sentence is appropriate for Oscar Pistorius.
I think this is an immensely tragic story. Obviously, a very beautiful, effusive, talented, exuberant human being. Reva Steenkamp's life was taken away. Shakespeare couldn't write a play like this. You know, to go from Paralympic hero where people are screaming your name at the airport to a situation where people are screaming death threats at you on Twitter and saying that someone must pump 4 bullets into your brain. You can't begin to understand like how epic that is as a story. I think it has polarized South Africa. People either love or hate Oscar Pistorius, and somewhere in between, which is where I think the truth lies, we've all kind of lost our way.
This is our breaking news on eNCA. Oscar Pistorius has arrived at the Kgosi Maphuro II prison to start serving his 5-year sentence.
I don't think it's a surprising sentence. I think she explained herself very well why giving him correctional supervision would not necessarily be appropriate. And obviously, you know, when a human life is lost, people will always have very strong opinions. But I think in light of what she found him guilty of, I think that she utilized the evidence available to her, and I think she came to what she perceived to be the best and most fair ruling. We are very angry as a people about crime. You know, and I think a lot of those emotions have worked themselves over into the Pistorius case because he's perceived to be wealthy, that somehow he got away with something. And I don't think that as much as people might want Oscar Pistorius to have had a different verdict or get a different sentence, that any of us are really in a position, as Judge Thokozile Masipa was, to make that call. You know, our justice system may be deeply flawed in some ways, but we do have a very strong constitution, and I believe that if there were serious issues with that ruling, they will be taken on appeal by the NPA, and we will have to see what other courts make of them.
Do you think Oscar Pistorius today will have mentally prepared himself for jail, and what do you think he was thinking going in there?
I think that from the very beginning of this case, the defense, as I understand it, made it very clear to him that his best possible outcome was culpable homicide. And I think there was an expectation created and put forward to him that in all likelihood, Ben, he would be going to jail. But I think there's a very different space between that knowledge and its realization. I think his family, I saw his uncle was crying. There were tears just nearly 2 years ago. This family was celebrating his incredible achievements at the Olympics and the Paralympics. Now he's being led down to a prison cell, and I think any family, that would be an enormous leap.
Court, Willie Jane.
The court has now handed down judgment and sentence, and we accept the judgment. Oscar will embrace this opportunity to pay back to society. As a last word, I wanted to say something as an uncle. I hope Oscar will start his own healing process as he walks down the path of restoration.
He could be out after just a year or so.
Doesn't matter, he's going to pay something.
Do you think justice has been served?
Yes.
It's incorrect to say that these are two families opposed to each other. There was an incident in the last week of sentencing where Arnold Pistorius walked over to Barry Steenkamp and gave him a huge hug, and they embraced during one of the breaks in court. Our mayor was there. You know, there was a really positive interaction between the two groups that wasn't caught on camera.
It's important for us that they know that she was very much cared for and loved and accepted as part of our family in the short time that she was with us. And if you knew Reva, you know, you didn't need to know her for very long for it to just creep into your heart and really just, she had a wonderful charisma and zest for life that she just exuded, and it was easy to just fall in love with her.
I'm glad it's over. Yeah. But I think I'm going to miss it. Because for me, I've been with this case ever since. Like, from the day she shot the girlfriend, I've been shooting it and until now, the last day. So, yeah, I'm going to miss it.
I think this whole story has been immensely, immensely sad. And I just feel so deeply sorry for Reva Steenkamp's family, for her friends, for the people that loved her, and for the Pistorius family to a degree as well, because I don't think anyone could really have prepared anyone involved in this thing for the level of interest, the level of judgment, a lot of the negativity, a lot of the cruelty to everyone involved. And I think that, you know, I just hope that, as the judge said, these people, everyone involved in this, will find some form of closure.
After the break.
South African justice for people who are rich.
Is there justice for the poor in South Africa? Paraplegic Ronnie Fakude spent 2 years inside awaiting trial. More time than Pistorius will probably serve as a convicted criminal. He spoke to us about his hellish ordeal at Courtroom prison, where Gayton Mackenzie notoriously filmed corruption and violence. We met Ronnie Fakude in White City, Soweto, on the day Oscar Pistorius was sentenced to 5 years in prison for culpable homicide. And the topic at this gathering of men under a tree shielded from the summer heat was just how unfair the justice system is in South Africa.
South African justice for people who are rich.
Most in this neighborhood know Fakude's personal story well. He was hijacked and shot at in 2007. The attack left him paralyzed from the waist down. 4 years later, Fakude found himself on the wrong side of the law. He was arrested and charged in Bloemfontein in December 2011, accused of fraud, theft and racketeering. He insists he is innocent. He says he couldn't afford bail, so he didn't bother to apply. He was sent to the notorious Grootfontein prison, where he says his nightmare began.
I was in a communal cell where almost 87 other inmates were there. 87 in a space of 2 bedrooms. It's a lot. There's one toilet, one bath. And you find that other inmates are sleeping at the toilet because there are no beds. Others are sleeping in the passages. Like in my case, I'm paraplegic. I'm always suffering from diarrhea.
So with one toilet there and you had diarrhea, what happened? How would you manage?
Chaos. I'll mostly depend on my nappy because I'm a nappy wearing patient. I'll always depend on my nappy, but there's no privacy. When I've dirty my nappy, I have to clean it up. Where? How? Who will help me?
Fakude was arrested on a flight from Johannesburg to Bloemfontein. He says his wheelchair was with his daughter who had come to fetch him. But they never met, and he was sent to prison without his chair. He says he was still expected to get his own food from the dining hall every day.
I have to be dragged to there. Friends have to try and get people who can help me go get food there.
Fakude says he often opted to go without.
It's better to stay hungry because I won't have diarrhea and I won't be sick and I won't be moving up and down.
Fakude followed the Pistorius trial with fascination. He was horrified to hear the testimony of Acting Correctional Services head Zach Modise.
Within 6 hours on admission, there has to be done a health assessment. What are the needs of this person? And also within a period of 21 days, we then do a complete assessment that includes security classification for us to be able to know exactly where to accommodate this person. We again look at his health needs, what treatment is undertaking and what treatment can be afforded, but also look at what are his social and psychological needs. We then determine at the end, once we have done that assessment, where this particular person has to be placed.
He's lying. I'm from there. I'm talking from experience.
Judge Masipa accepted Modise's testimony and urged Oscar Pistorius to approach the courts if his treatment inside became unbearable. With no money and no lawyer while in prison, Fakude turned to the Wits Justice Project, which probes the plight of prisoners.
After the first story that I wrote about Ronnie, I think there was quite a public outcry, and we actually established a fund for him, and as a result we were able to pay for a private lawyer. We were also able to send a private doctor to see him in prison. And he was really very ill at that time. He has one kidney, he has no bowel or bladder control, he has sutured intestines, he has compromised lungs from TB, which he acquired in Joburg prison before he was moved to Courtroom. At that time he had gastritis, bronchitis, bed sores, a whole host of things, and the prison authorities were insisting that he only had indigestion. So after the private doctor that we sent to see him, he was given proper medical attention.
The media attention infuriated prison officials, says Fakude.
When everything was exposed, the torture that I had, it was physical torture, mental torture, torture in any other form.
From who?
From the prison officials. And senior official members flew from Pretoria to Bloemfontein to come and see this guy who's complaining about the good life in prison. And he's saying it's wrong, and it was like I wanted a very preferential treatment. I didn't realize that I was doing something wrong, but I was shouting out because it was unbearable for me to be in a space where I was getting sick every single hour.
With no help?
With no help.
Fakude alleges that some officials were so angry with him for speaking out that they assaulted him.
I'm totally negative. I'm so sorry. But what I did was not right. What I did was not right, and looking at the age of the guys that beated me up, they were young boys. I was not fighting with them, but I was complaining on a reason. And they decided to beat a disabled person. And when you complain about the system, it's like you complain about them. So you shouldn't talk. And I'm very bitter, but I know God will help. I'm worried about the other disabled inmates who are left in. I know the torture they suffered. I would love to see Oscar. Not because he's rich, but because of his disability. Maybe for him it's gonna be better.
When his bail application was finally heard, the prison doctor questioned the authenticity of his disability.
It was quite extraordinary actually, because the prison doctor, Dr. Margaret Bekani, testified before the court that there was nothing wrong with Ronnie, that he had indigestion, and that she had seen him walk in the prison corridors. So the magistrate then referred him to Universitas Hospital, to a private neurologist who confirmed that he was indeed paraplegic.
He's the only awaiting trial prisoner in South Africa to be electronically tagged to monitor his movements. Up till now, only sentenced prisoners had been tagged. Awaiting trial prisoners are generally accommodated in worse conditions than convicted criminals. But the Wits Justice Project says the differences in treatment between Oscar and Ronnie were stark from the very beginning.
When Oscar applied for a relaxation of his bail conditions, I think he was asking for permission to travel to Mozambique and drink alcohol. Ronnie was languishing, in very difficult conditions in prison, and actually he was very, very ill at the time.
The Department of Justice and Correctional Services declined to give Checkpoint an on-camera interview and insists that it is capable of accommodating a wide variety of persons.
Oscar will get the preferential best treatment, as they said. He will be the only one who will get the best treatment. I wish I was with him. I'm so sorry to all South Africans to know this, that they must work hard and have money so that they can live better in any situation.
Next up.
Are you a sound expert, sir? Have you received training in decibels and sound?
Roger Dixon, courtroom casualty.